Welcome back to the Aftermatch. I don't know why I'm doing this. You did it superbly last week, Beav, but welcome back to the show.
Great to be here. And I was going to ask the question, and do you think you've improved at all? But
I've not improved at all. But look, great to have you with us, and we're so pleased to have so many of you come along for the ride. Episode 7, so nearly a couple of months down the track now. And look, we always start by piling into you. Beaver, how did you leave Ma'a Nonu off the All Blacks Abroad 15 last week? I think we had about 50 messages asking the question, is Ma'a Nonu still playing? Why not Ma'a Nonu? Has he left Ma'a Nonu out? He did. He left him out.
Do I have issues with Ma'a Nonu? Do we hate each other? Am I not well researched? Look, my biggest issue there was my research.
You let yourself down.
I let myself down, and I love Ma. Me and Ma are friends. I know a few of you accused us of not being friends. We're friends.
We'll see what he has to say about that.
And I should have known. I should have known and researched further and thought about it for longer than the 5 minutes I gave it. But yes.
It was a great team for 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was.
So is he now in?
Yeah, Bundy's gone.
Oh, you've thrown
Sorry,
Bundy out.
Yep.
Awkward.
He's Irish.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
As Trevor said, you hate the Irish.
Well,
You're actually racist towards the Irish.
I'm not.
EP2, if you're wondering.
I'm not, because I've kept James Lowe, because no one's produced a winger that I've forgotten about. But yes, Ma is back in.
Ma is back playing. He has just become the oldest player ever to play in the French top 14 over the weekend. 42 years young. And coming off the bench and setting up tries like he was just back in the All Blacks winning World Cup.
It's truly remarkable.
What's so remarkable?
Well, first of all, no, like he's looked after himself for a long time now, physically. Like he was doing yoga and stretching a lot more than, I guess, a lot of us get into that sort of stuff when we start to panic first, when we start to think the dream's over. But Ma was doing it sort of late 20s. For sure, he was doing extra stretching and yoga and all the rest of it off the booze, and all that does help. Like it's got to help at some point, but you've got to think that the position he plays, like outside of probably number 7, there would be few positions that put their body through the collisions. Like I know props and that, obviously different stuff that their bodies are going through with the scrummaging and your necks and your backs. But pure collisions for 12 jersey. And I mean, it helps that he wins most collisions because look at the size of him. However, that's what makes it so remarkable for me. He's 42.
And 10 months.
And 10 months.
So nearly.
We'll call him 43.
Oh, I don't know if he'll like that.
No, he won't like that at all. But, it just makes it ridiculous to think that you can be putting your body through that. And at the same time, I guess the thing is too, I talked about his stretching and his I guess diets and what he's cut out of it and all the rest of it. You get to a point where are you prepared to make the sacrifices that you once did to be an All Black or what have you? Well, clearly he's still got the discipline. Like you think, Ma would have been playing for Wellington and Hurricanes probably 1920 at a guess.
It's like a 24-year professional career.
It's sometimes you've got to start to think, can I be bothered? Can I be bothered not eating that burger? Can I be bothered getting down on the floor and stretching? And can I be, I'm looking in the mirror right now.
I'm thinking that. We're hearing some personal stories here.
Can I be bothered not to drink mid? It's just, that's the
you
mirror
couldn't be
that
bothered.
I'm looking in. I could, you get to the point where I have just burnt myself out with this.
What age did that happen for you when you just couldn't be bothered anymore?
Turn away, owner of Bath. Yes, in Bath, I took a year off doing all of that, but I felt that I got it back.
He was still playing people when he says he took a year off. He's not having a sabbatical here. He's not on leave from rugby.
I got it back.
Playing.
I got it back, and then I feel I kept the discipline for another 5 or 6 years.
Okay, so you had to go to Bath. You had to have that year.
Yeah.
It was like your OE.
It was my OE.
Yeah, you were just having a blowout.
Yeah. I mean, they might have paid me, but I just
Better
had my
than
OE.
everyone else on OE is sleeping in hostels and
Yeah,
2-minute noodles.
That's what Bath. Yeah, it wasn't
That's
much.
what you were doing.
Wasn't
basically.
much more than that. Yeah.
Ma'a Nonu, remarkable.
Awesome.
43-year-old who lines up next to Joey Manu in your team,
Yes.
Kiwis Abroad.
Kiwis Abroad, a wee correction.
Yes.
We'll update it on social media. We'll put a cross through Bundy. Sorry, Bundy. But
Bundy didn't reply anyway.
Ma'a is back.
Majority of others on the team did. But Bundy didn't.
Very Irish now.
Okay, let's go through some of the other comments.
Yes.
This is quite interesting. Enema says, crazy how much talent leaves the country. And a couple of other people backed them up and said, New Zealand rugby needs to do better so we don't lose these players. I think, yes, there's players here, there's players there, but until you actually see a list and a 15 of it, you go, holy shit.
And
those players could beat the current All Blacks.
Oh, it'd be a game.
Well, this is what you said last week.
Yeah.
You said no, All Blacks by 20, and then you started thinking about it more.
And then I heard you say that a lot of these guys are in their prime, and they are. I mean, Ma would probably argue that he might not be, but there's a lot that are very close to their prime, if not in their prime. And, yeah, it would be a fixture. It would be one hell of a fixture.
How do we let them all go? Is it just not possible to keep them? Because we're going to talk about Damian McKenzie shortly, who has just committed to New Zealand rugby for the next 4 years. So some we're able to keep and others we're just not.
Yeah, and just in those comments that you've highlighted there, Kirst, you can't keep them all. And in fairness to New Zealand rugby and franchises and provinces who may have seen somebody, ignored them, and then they go overseas and have these wonderful careers. Like if we take that list we came up with, and I mean, the Irish boys, for example, of the 3 Kiwi-linked Irish superstars who are as good as any players in the world right now, the only one at the time of departing New Zealand that you were like, oh, no, he's not going, is he? Is James Lowe.
And he was never...
Yeah.
Would he have ever made it?
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would have?
Yep. But I'd have picked him before he left.
Yeah.
Time and time again. Because he had a skill set that not every winger in this country has. And the way the game has gone, I would have thought that huge left foot of his would have been quite valuable. But anyway, that was selected.
The coach was sore otherwise.
Out of the time.
Yeah.
But like, if we look at Jamison Gibson-Park, who is, without a doubt, the top 2 halfbacks in the world.
Alongside Tawera Kurbalo. So
course,
DuPont comes in at 3 on
Well,
Beaver's
I was
list.
actually meaning DuPont. But on the international stage, he is right there. Well, I mean, Jamison will tell you, like, he was bounced around franchises in the days. He
couldn't even make a 23 in Super Rugby.
No, in the days of the draft and things like that. So at the time, can you blame New Zealand rugby for not putting up a fight when he got that overseas offer? And you certainly can't blame Jamison for going. And even Bundy, when he was at the Chiefs, he was in and out of a starting team, but there was multiple midfielders floating around. And now, yes, he's like an absolute walk-in for this Lions tour about to happen, because he's one of the best in the world.
What about Charles Piutau? That's the one that people like, we shouldn't have let that guy go. And now he's just playing his rugby in Japan.
And if you look at it at the time, I don't think anyone would argue with you that everyone knew that Charles Piutau was going to be that, because he was already about that as far as those All Black appearances on the wing and fullback. But also at the time, there was Ben Smith, who was at the peak of his powers. There was Julian Severe on a wing. There was Nehem on a scale.
We're talking 2015 World Cup.
There was still Israel Dagg. There was still Corey Jane. There was all these guys still there. And I guess when you also factor in that, I think it's fair to say that the offer that came in for Charles was huge. What does New Zealand rugby do? A very, very difficult situation. However, yeah, as a lot of you said in the comments section, be it on whatever platform you decide to jump in on, Piutau would have been a 10-year All Black. And he'd quite possibly still be running out for him. Yeah.
A couple of other special mentions. Tom Franklin got a lot of love on social media.
Beautiful.
One of the unsung heroes, left New Zealand rugby far too soon. George Jacobs.
Yes.
George wanted to call you out, Beav.
Oh, what's George done?
2 tight head props is diabolical. Be better, Beav. Who did you pick?
I went with Big Ben Tamiafuna.
And?
Another tight head in Nepo Lalala.
Why'd you do that?
Both highly skilled props, George, and I thought I'm going to back one of them to transfer over to the loose head. Everyone knows that the tight heads are the big scrummages, so I wanted a real big scrummaging front row. Sorry, George. I'm trying to bullshit you, mate.
There's a running joke. Look, I'll just fill you in here. There's a running joke and has been for the last 4 years that Beav does not know the difference between ones and threes. He has just proved it yet again.
I love them all.
But he doesn't know the difference.
And as long as they go forward, George, I couldn't care less. And both them go forward.
So that's it.
That's it.
You've addressed the issue.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, George, Dave.
We'll get back to some instant reaction from you shortly, but let's talk about the contracting. Damian McKenzie, he's already been in the Chiefs for 11 years.
Yep.
And he's re-signed for another 4 years.
Yes.
Let's talk about his records. So he's already the third most capped Chief behind Sam Cane and Liam Messam. He has already overtaken you as the highest Chiefs point scorer in history, more than 1,200 points.
Oh, they play more games these days.
He is going to take every single Chiefs record in the next 4 years.
Yes.
Isn't he?
Well, most of them. There is one that still eludes him.
What's that?
Most points in a game.
You've still got that?
Still got that. And
Who was it against?
The Lions, the 72-65 game. Yes. So
he doesn't play those ones these days.
Well, I was going to say there's a lot of easy conversions he gets these days. But no, wonderful news for Chiefs. You only have to go to a Chiefs game to see how popular it is. And also wonderful news for New Zealand rugby and the All Blacks. There's obviously a lot of uncertainty around our 10s and who's going to be.
Which is interesting that he is committed on such a long-term deal.
Yeah, well, I guess as a fan, it's great that we've got a little bit of security around that 2027 World Cup in Australia because no one knows what Richie's doing, no one knows what Bodie's doing, and now at least we know that one of the three
I'm pretty sure Bodie's locked in until 27, isn't he?
Okay, maybe I don't know.
I think he
yeah.
is.
Okay,
I think
good.
He's committed. Yeah.
So it's two of the three.
It's two of the three.
And most nations would be more than happy with that two alone. So great security for the country.
Can you talk us through what is the contracting situation like? What would a player of his calibre and his stature in the New Zealand game and the world game right now, like how many sort of offers would he have received? Because Clayton McMillan has come out saying it is great to secure his signature when there was high demand from international clubs. What are we talking here? And what's it actually like when you go through these contracting situations? Are the players kept out of it and the managers only come to them at certain times? What was it like for you?
Oh, they'll come to you once they've got something firm because there's always a lot of, let's call them tie kickers around, oh, yeah, we'd be keen. But, I mean, managers and experienced ones are pretty quick to work out where the real ones are going to come from. And for someone like Damian, you're looking at, like, the top of the top. So you probably, and look, England is probably off the table at the moment due to, I guess, the trouble in the Premiership and the clubs are having there financially. So you're looking at the French and you're looking at the Japanese league, obviously. And the Japanese league, even still, because of, I guess, where Damian sits, he's been at Suntory before, which is one of the premier clubs in Japan. And with premier clubs in Japan comes premier paychecks. Therefore, there's only probably going to be about 3 or 4 from Japan I'd have thought that would have been in the market or in the ballpark. And then it's a case of...
And one's already got a first 5.
One's already got... Yes, Richie's already at 1 and Toshiba.
Suntory's got about 3 really high-end players.
Yes. No real salary cap in Japan. So
okay, so it doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter.
So they can keep filling the books.
Yeah, but you can only have a couple of them on the field at once.
That's
so
right.
you've got to be able to justify that. So I would imagine it would have come down to maybe 3 or 4 in Japan would have been at the table and maybe 1 or 2 from France. And then from from Damian's point of view, he's got to weigh up France, playing a lot of games. I'm 2 flights away from New Zealand versus... but still playing big-time rugby. Obviously, the Champions Trophy or whatever it's called now, the old Heineken, is very appealing to us still. And then you've got Japan, 1 flight, great money, body gets well and truly looked after, and potential still to be in New Zealand for probably 4 or 5 months of the year.
Or you've got the Waikato River, the Hamilton Gardens, FMG Stadium, Waikato,
Cowbells,
a couple of your best mates.
Yeah.
So he went option 3.
You got it, yeah. And obviously, all jokes aside, the All Black jersey still wins, and that's great for New Zealand rugby. It's great for, I guess, the attitude that some people were trying to suggest that we've still got to pick overseas because the All Black jersey is not worth that much anymore. Well, I think this signing again highlights the fact that guys are still prepared to forego bigger money overseas chase the dreams that you've had since he was a little 5-year-old boy in the deep south of New Zealand.
We'll get back to Damian in just a moment, but just on you personally, it just jogged my memory about a story of you turning down a contract. Was it Southern France?
Biarritz.
Yeah, one of the great places of the world.
Yeah.
You turned down a contract in Biarritz. For what reason?
Yeah, you're paraphrasing here. You're going to suggest I turn down a contract at Biarritz for a Sunday session.
Facts.
Sort of facts. I'll quickly... So when I signed with Beav, I narrowed it down to Beav and Biarritz.
This is what really happens with the contracting behind the scenes.
And Biarritz was still in the top league of top 14 of France at the time. They were still in the Heineken Cup at the time. So it was a very much equal comparison. And I hadn't been to Biarritz, never been to Biarritz. I'd been to Bath and had a sausage at the sausage cart there one day with the All Blacks when we were driving through on an interview tour. Loved the sausage cart. And then the Biarritz said to my agent, we've noticed Beaver's got a bye week here in Super Rugby. We're going to throw him on a plane. He's going to come over for 3 days, show him around, blah, blah, blah. I turned it down because, as we learnt last week, I was hosting a Sunday session at my place.
Which was already organised when the draw came out, of course.
And everyone was already committed.
Pizza night.
Everyone was already committed. So I couldn't then turn around and say, the party's not on, guys.
Oh, but you could party without me.
No, I wasn't going to let them at my house without me. So I turned down the opportunity to go to Biarritz for 2 or 3 days and bye week, and subsequently signed with Beav. And then I guess fast forward a couple of years, and Beav's Beav. I go to Biarritz on a sort of 4-day break after a European game in France. It was December. It was snowing back in Bath. I ended up surfing in Biarritz. So I must admit I probably got that one wrong. And had I had an opportunity to see Biarritz and realise what the south of France was. I mean, I was pretty naive, but my geography wasn't great, even though
I hope it was a good Sunday sesh.
It was a good Sunday sesh, but possibly 3 years in Biarritz. Probably not better than that.
Well, is the contract still on the table, Biarritz? Would you be keen in a washed-up All Black?
I think Biarritz has had a tough time.
Similar, younger than Ma'a Nonu.
Yes,
younger than Ma'a.
Yes. Biarritz
doesn't look after himself as well.
But Biarritz is in now, I think, 2nd or 3rd division. I don't know.
That's fine.
Yeah. Oh, no, yeah, it's probably my level.
Take that.
But no, I don't know. I don't know if it's still there. It was a real shame because they had guys like Yashvili, who was obviously the French great halfback playing from at the time, and it would have been great. And obviously, had I known the geography and the landscape, probably might have swayed me. But I turned down that chance to go and look at it in the bye week, and the rest of the is history. Okay,
back to Damian McKenzie.
Yes.
He's the guy that we're really talking about here. When you look at the last 2 World Cups, do you think that's why the fire burns in his belly? 2019 would have, by all accounts, been a superstar at the Japan World Cup. Ruled out.
Yep.
Did his ACL.
Yep.
Not there. 2 years ago, 2023. Is that why it's burning for him?
Yeah, well, I'd say that 19 World Cup, he was on track. If we remember, he was probably on track to be the fullback. And then I think Richie and Bodie were probably in the head-to-head battle for the 10 jersey. So missed out on that, you're right. And then 23 World Cup, sort of really much a bit part player. I think he got 2 minutes in the final off the bench sort of thing. So I think there would be an aspect of the World Cup still being a little itch to scratch, and the fact that if you look going forward, regardless if Richie comes back, I think he's going to be a massive player, be it if Richie doesn't come back, I'd say he'd be the starting 10, or he'd be very much a big part of a 23 where he wouldn't be sitting on the bench for long facets like he probably did, or not even in the 23 in the France World Cup. So I would definitely say that. And just I think he's now also got an opportunity to be the main man for a while, and he's never had that. Even he was always picked in the Fozzie and Hansen eras, but he was never given starting jerseys.
So will he be the starting jersey under Razor this year? Will he be the main man?
I think he will be.
This deal signals that.
It does signal it. When you look at it, it does signal it. And right now, it's just a matter of what they do with Bodie and whether Bodie's 15 and Will Jordan's on the wing again, or which way they go with that. So, no, I everything points to it. Like, he's in form.
Yeah.
Like, he's the best player in Super Rugby.
So he was last year.
He's leading the Jonas, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, but not leading the Super Rugby Player of the Year award.
Yeah, well, I think we've all established that voting system's got a few issues.
It's corrupt.
Yeah. Cynical rugby coaches and captains not voting for the people that have just beaten them.
Do you know the only team that's given him top points this year?
Who's that?
Who's the only honest side in Super Rugby?
Moana
are the only team, coach and captain, that voted him 3 points each. So he got 6 points out of that game.
Good on them.
So there are good people out there. There are good people out there.
Not bitter people. I mean, I can't argue. I'd be the bitter person too. There's no way.
You're giving it to the guy that's just dropped the ball cold about 3 times.
I haven't analysed some player all week, and then he beats my team, and I'm going to go, yep, give him 3 points for him. Really love his work. I am angry. Because what day of the week do they get their points off them?
I'm going to say after the game.
Oh, no way. Yeah. Straight away. You are so angry.
Yeah,
and so
you want to wait a few days. Oh. Still.
Ring me up on a Thursday and I might give you an honest answer, but not straight after.
Straight after. If we roll back the dial 10 years, because it's actually crazy that he's been around for such a long period of time, but if we roll back the dial a decade, when you first came across a young Damian McKenzie, what did you see in this kid? What do you remember?
I remember not wanting to like him because at the time I was coming back thinking, I might just push you aside, young fella. Yeah, I might just
we know
push
you didn't
aside.
like any of the 10s.
Didn't like him. So, and he was everything I wasn't. He was young,
Handsome,
fast, good looking, relaxed, smiley, like everything I wasn't. So I didn't want to like him, but I've grown to appreciate him, I guess, more than anything. I wouldn't say like him, but I appreciate him. But no, I guess from a rugby point of view, being out in the field with him, his hand speed. So like his hand speed from being like passing, but also from the catch to foot speed. I mean, I talked about in our last episode why DC is the greatest ever. There was a little bit of similarities there with the ability for Damian to catch and kick, catch and pass, all with that really, really exaggerated speed.
And this was from a young age.
And that was from a young age.
This was when he was coming in as a teenager.
And also just, you almost want to say dopiness as far as, and dopiness is probably the wrong word, I apologise.
Dopiness?
But just like a real blasé sort of outward feel to him, like not getting affected by anything. Like, I guess, the old goldfish scenario, like if something bad happens, I've forgotten about it. Like I'm on to the next thing.
Definitely not dopey.
But you know what I mean? Like just a real sort of, it's forgotten about, I'll move on to the next. Like nothing sort of would weigh him down. Like I'd be trying to dig a hole on the field somewhere where he can just brush it off and off he goes to his next job. And that was from a young age, which I thought was like, sort of set me back. And then I started to appreciate what a bit of the hype was about, but also ridiculously quick. Like he tests quicker than wingers do. I mean, not right now. He's hobbling around on one knee sort of pretty much at the moment, but he is that rapid. And then I guess the size of him, he's had to have another attribute that I guess people do recognise, but it's his bravery. Like it is a big heart in there. And I know people talk about, well, this guy and that guy's not big enough. I think there's talk about Duplessis career for him, not big enough. But you'd say the same about Damian McKenzie. But where does he let you down in size? Like, he makes his tackles. So what's the issue with not being the big guy or what have you? So no, those little things right from when he was 19 or 20, when I first came across him, that's, I guess, what stood out.
You said a couple of years ago on a wonderful radio station that when you first saw Damian McKenzie, you thought this kid is going to be better than Dan Carter.
Yep.
You stand by that?
Had the attributes too. Still has the attributes too. So
Still young. Under 30.
And with the 10s, like the more you play, the more, like it's up here. Like once you get your brain sorted to be able to deal with situations and be in situations and experience those week in, week out, then you're only going to get better. Like DC's game management was impeccable, but that was from a young age, and he had great education and great mentors around him, great teams. Where Damian's been 10, 15, he might not have had the guidance that he hasn't been able to lean on an Aaron Major or a Mertz or a Robbie Deans, and then I'm trying to think of all their great Crusaders coaches, and then obviously Wayne Smith for so long. And Damian's had obviously a lot to do with Wayne Smith and what have you too, but it's more of a case of he hasn't been able to have a continuous time to put it out there. Like if he can now get a continuous period and takes us through to the next World Cup or what have you, then, why wouldn't he sort of put his eyes on going, right, I want to be the best that I can be. And I think from a physical attribute and skill point of view, there's nothing there that he doesn't have to be whatever he wants to be.
If you think of peak Damian McKenzie,
Yep.
where is he right now on the spectrum? Like, he is already fantastic, but how far from his absolute ceiling and best is he?
So there's the player, but then I reckon there's the 10. And I know that probably sounds silly to say because, it's the same thing. I don't think it is. For his peak ceiling as a 10, I'd say if he's here right now, I think it could be here.
So massive.
There's
huge amount of room to grow.
Huge. I mean, as a player, you sit back and go, well, what are you talking about, Beav? He's as fast and as quick as anyone on the field.
He's already the best player in Super Rugby for the last 3 years, according to you.
And so say the stats.
The Jonas. 2025.
But that's what I'm talking about. Like, he's this amazing, wonderful player, but his ceiling is a 10. There's so much room for him to grow. And I mean, we've seen it in the international area last year. Like, he would be first in it. He didn't play.
So he needs time.
He just needs time.
So you give him 2 years. You give him 2 years in the 10 jersey for the All Blacks, and by the World Cup,
he could be anything.
Better than Dan Carter.
Well, it's a huge statement, but he's got the physical and skill sets to be able to be that good. It's just now up here and managing games.
Okay, well, while we're talking about 10s and Dan Carter, some more instant reaction.
I've got to remember we're actually not just a visual show when I point to my head, when I say up here. I was meaning my head. Or his head.
I can't believe you called him dopey and doubled down on it. You can address this with him later. But last week, you took us through what made Dan Carter so great. And a lot of people said this is the greatest explanation of Dan Carter we have ever heard. It was absolutely brilliant from yourself. You did a bit of research, so you really thought about it. How about some of these comparisons that have come in the comment section? Marco says, skill-wise, he's the Tiger Woods of rugby. Do you like that comparison?
You can't argue that skill-wise. No, you can't.
Skills Elite said basically compared DC's skill set to Michael Jordan, the ability to run, pass, and shoot on the spot.
Yeah, and the one thing I missed out, and I'm glad that we've got intelligent listeners and viewers because they've picked up on it, is when I say from the one spot, it wasn't like he was stationary. I was meaning the depth. So as far as, because you can't run and be a threat to the line if you're standing deep in the pocket. So you have to be at a certain depth, generally on about a 45-degree angle from your halfback. So therefore, that's where you're actually still catching and passing, being an attacking threat, being square. Well, that's where he could kick. He could take drop kicks. I mean, the footage you put up was I was actually sitting behind him in the World Cup final. No one saw that drop kick coming because he was literally in a position where he would usually be either passing or running. And he just dropped on his left, bang. And that was a wonderful clip to highlight what we were trying to emphasise where I was meaning he's not standing deep in the pocket and being able to kick because you can't run from being in the pocket. So, yeah, it was wonderful that everyone picked up on that. But, yeah, that is the magic.
Sam,
yes.
On your point, being able to execute from the same spot, would you guys practice a bunch of one-step kicks rather than a three-step?
Yeah, so three-step stuff, I know what you're referring to there. It's a common kicking coach technique sort of thing that you'd use. But, yeah, definitely the one-step stuff, being able to catch, pass, kick. Someone who did a lot of work.
What's a one-step and a three-step?
So you're catching the ball, and as opposed to taking 1, 2,
slow
3, you're just catching the ball, one, bang.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so
that's just faster.
Just faster and more efficient. And with that in mind, we've seen you getting technical. Who was that one from?
That was from Sam.
From Sam. We did, I guess, someone who had a lot to do with both of us was McBurn, and we did a lot of running kicking. So essentially catching and running, and therefore the theory behind that was being able to be in general play. And again, the notion of not knowing what you were going to be doing. You could be running as if you're going to have a crack at line, but then being able to kick all in, I guess, a running motion as opposed to if you look at guys when they're set to kick, it's very obvious that they're kicking.
Another one from TBM. You basically said that DC was the best you've seen in either code, league or rugby, at variation of kicking that he was able to do.
Yep.
TBM's asking 2004 Carter or 2023 Cleary?
well, you've played on my heartstrings. You know that I'm a big Penrith Panther fan with Cleary 23.
Thank you, TBM.
Yes.
You've done your research.
I would still give it to DC by a smidgen, based on the fact, and this is having never played a game of rugby league in my life, so for our league followers and listeners, you can jump down my throat right now, but I'm presuming you have less time in rugby because generally you're off the league defensive line is 10 metres back plus whatever pass you're getting, where DC's getting the pass, or rugby players are getting the pass from your halfback with the defensive line at the base of the ruck. So usually that's sort of like 6 or 7 metres gap. So therefore catching and kicking needs to be amplified as far as your speed that you need to get ready. You haven't got the time to, I guess, adjust and sort of turn your hips, turn your shoulders to where you want to go. You got to sort of do it quicker in one motion as well as catching the ball.
So you're going Pete Carter over Pete Cleary?
Yep, currently, yeah.
Cleary's ceiling would be like Damian's right now, right?
Well,
already phenomenal and up here, but
yes.
could be
You just never know.
up there.
When you actually look at them, very physical in stature too.
They are. Okay, well, most popular player in New Zealand right now, and this is an observation from the weekend.
Yes.
But last week we were at Pukekohe Stadium, where Damian McKenzie just got absolutely flogged with fans and couldn't get away from it. The same thing happened in Christchurch on the weekend. But the difference there, in Puke, the stadium was full of Chiefs fans.
Yes.
In Christchurch, the stadium was full of Crusaders fans. There was only a few Moana jerseys here and there. Ardie Savea was absolutely swamped with people as soon as the whistle went and the fans were allowed on the field in Christchurch on the weekend. And he'd just beaten their team.
Yes.
He is, to me, I think the most popular player in Super Rugby right now.
Well, my experience of going to Christchurch, he'd probably be the first player from outside of Christchurch to ever sign an autograph in Christchurch. They don't usually like it, especially if you can beat them. He probably is, you're right. He is.
There's not many in that category. I go Damian McKenzie,
Yes.
Ardie Savea,
Yep.
and
Bodie.
Beauden Barrett would be
Yep.
the three that get that sort of love and attention no matter where they go.
And so
And Ardie's a forward.
Ardie's a forward.
He's not in the glamour position.
But it's the way he plays. It's the way he plays. I guess it's the way he conducts himself. And also from an aside, isn't it great when you just, like those three in particular, and we just talked about Damian re-signing, having our superstars here in our competition. Like, you're right, I was at Pukekohe too. I'd actually promised a few of my mates' kids that, oh yeah, I'll get you sorted with Damian.
You couldn't get in there.
And then I looked down after commentating and I texted their dads and said, I'll sort it out later.
Sorry.
There was about 1,000 kids
in a circle around.
in a circle, and they were about 30 deep, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to have you tonight. They started to question whether I know them or not. But no, you're right, and it's just so good. Like, I mean, it's all good and well to have great teams and great rugby and great products, but you need the superstars for the kids and what they talk about. And like the kids that gone to Puke and the kids that went to Christchurch to watch that game, they probably didn't even know there was a game of rugby going on. They were literally, if you watch kids at rugby, they are literally doing their own thing, and they are waiting to the 80th minute to then make a dash to go and get their photo with Ardie, to go get their signature with him, or Damien or Bodie. That's what the kids want, and that's what the kids remember.
Ardie Savea, we talk about him so often when we talk about Moana Pasifika, and he was exceptional. In that first 25 minutes, he set them up for success, and across the full 80. But, man, from a team perspective, every single player on the field wearing a Moana Pasifika jersey looked like a world beater on the weekend, Beav. They all looked like international players.
Yeah, they played with a controlled manner, which...
and think about where they were a cold night in Christchurch against the Crusaders.
In the history of Moana, and I know it's a short history, they haven't had a better performance. It's their best performance. And yet, it's easy to say they won in Christchurch, which you mentioned is probably the toughest place to win an away game. I mean, I don't know what going like to Hamilton is like now because I've never had to do it. But Christchurch would be the place that you're jumping on that plane going, geez, we're going to have to get some things right on this trip, like everything right, or else you just don't walk away with a victory. And then you look at how they went about their work. Like if Tana had written down on a piece of paper, we've got to do this, we've got to do this. He could have had a million things on a piece of paper. He could have ticked all of them, I reckon. They were close to rugby perfection, I thought, as it could have been. And the thing about it is they did it in a manner which, and this is very simplistic, I reckon the forwards and their midfielders got told to go out and bash them. Be as tough and as physical as you can, and leave Tamutini, Patrick there at 10, and Havili at 15. They'll do the rest for you. But you other 12, you have got one job to do, and that is to go out and bash them. And physically, they were amazing. And they went out, they met the Crusaders defensively, and they carried hard. And then those three, though, cursed. Like, I know Artie's, rightfully so, is always going to get the headlines. But those three, particularly, I guess, when you look at JT, been around for 10 years, bit part player at a lot of franchises, even a bit part player of counties at times because of Roygaard's emergence. And Havili, who has been good in the NPC, but Super Rugby's always looked like just sort of making it sort of thing. Now, he is someone that Tana and Moana can rely on to make the right decisions, put them in the right part of the field. And Pellegrini's just been, I guess, the magic little sprinkling on top, really. But those three have done so much for the success. Like, Artie was always going to add to their physicality. He was always going to be the man that they wanted to follow. But those three the way that those three have controlled games of rugby, they have a very simplistic style, Moana. They get inside your 20 or 30, and then they get real direct. And with a little bit of creativity from JT at the base of rucks, he's pulling people out, he's doing his little backflips, he's picking good forward runners, and then they just camp down there until they walk away with points. And they don't go trying too much crazy stuff. They are so disciplined, and that's what I reckon Tana would have just loved on Saturday night.
I think what blew my mind is for the last couple of weeks is there's been this narrative that the players don't feel like they belong here. Tana's kept saying it in the post-match interviews that they're all still sort of in awe that they're playing at Super Rugby, that they're playing against these players. Artie said afterwards, no one expected us to win. But I expect you to win now that we've seen that from you. Well, my expectations are that they can win. It's not that they got lucky or this is just, one out of the box. It's that they can win these games every week.
Now, they've got the Waratahs this week, which is great, but I think there's one coming up in a few weeks, and
the Blues.
That's a marketer's dream. Like, they talk about the race that stops a nation and all the rest of it. This has got to be the game that stops a city.
It's like the Auckland Cup.
The Auckland Cup. I know there's probably a race that might be a bit offended by that, but it's the Auckland Cup. And I think it's at Eden Park. Tickets should be going bananas for that now. Like, that is so exciting, that prospect of that game. As I say, like, geez, as a marketer, geez, you'd be excited about that.
And you are a marketer. You've
always thinking about
your
that.
BSc from BMS from Waikato University. Righto, we move on. The Jonas.
Yes.
Our player of the round for round 7 of Super Rugby.
Yep.
We stay with this game, Beaver. Who was your Jonah Award winner in round 7?
It could have been any one of 4 or 5 Moana Pacific players. However, I have landed on someone who continues to catch the eye, someone who could have probably got it a few weeks ago, and someone who clearly has, talk about marketers, a marketer's dream for a name in Miracle Whailangi. That try he scored, no right to score it. Who scores that? Maybe his captain, Artie, might have been able to score it, but he had 3 guys to get through, 2 of which were on him straight away. Like, it's one thing to beat 3 guys, but when you've got 2 on you straight away, like, how do you shake that? These skinny legs Sydney didn't know how to shake that. So it was just unbelievable performance from him. He's one of those guys, and it might seem silly to say that, but defensively, some days you can go out there and you can defend and tackle or whatever. But if you want to have to defend him, you have to be all in. Like, there can be not an ounce of you that's not all in on that. You have to get nice and square. So if you fall off, somehow he trips up over you or something, because he just runs with a intensity that sort of signals he's not going to get tackled. Like, I reckon when he's running, he's believing he's not going to get tackled. He's just so explosive and so determined that the only one similar to that is Artie. But is he a bit bigger than Artie?
He's bigger than Artie.
Yeah.
His stats here that come from Wikipedia, and I don't even know if they're correct. I think he might be heavier than this. 6'5", so 195 centimetres. and 103 kgs, but I reckon he's put on a little bit of beef, so I reckon he's bigger than 103.
Well,
Because otherwise he's your size.
Well, I was going to say he's a good 103 because I'm 103 and I don't look like that.
Yeah. So I think a little bit more. 25 years old. We've talked about him a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but as the story goes, he is the only player in Moana Pasifika that was picked directly out of the Pacific Islands. So grew up, born in Samoa, played his rugby over there for the Wailea Rugby Club. And then in 2022, Beav, he attended this World Rugby Combine in the islands. And that's how he came to the attention of Moana Pasifika, and they said, we need to sign that guy.
It's a great story.
It's a great story.
And I guess it's a big tick for what Moana Pasifika was designed to do. And let's just hope that it inspires more, because
How many more of miracles are out there?
well, I mean,
The athleticism, the skill set, the size. He's got everything.
and as you say, 25.
He's 25. And when did Lucy's peak? Not at that age.
No, you look at Jerome, who Jerome was probably not as Jerome was probably a touch lankier, be the right word, when you're comparing size wise to Miracle, but he certainly was a lot later than that to where he hit his absolute peak. And even Artie's he's getting better and better every year as he gets older, and he's certainly older than 25. So, no, it's exciting for Moana Pasifika, exciting for Samoa.
Yeah.
If they can, there's so many sort of little players are emerging. There's so many players emerging.
If they can keep them.
If they can keep them, I think of Pellegrini,
Yeah.
if Tonga can keep their hands on him and put in the pieces around him. And I was also thinking too, the concept of having that Lions-esque Pacific Tour do the one every 4.
Yes.
When you get guys who
They would have a good team.
they'd have a great team, but also their profiles are growing. Most rugby fans now know in the country who Miracle Whailangi is.
So we need a combined Pacific Island team like they had in 2005.
5-ish. Yep.
We need to bring that back and
Do
have
world tours.
the best of the Pacific playing in a team.
Yep.
We need to name that team. We'll do that next week.
Okay.
We will do that next week. But for this week, Miracle Whailangi, our Jonah Award winner. On to the Crusaders.
Yep.
Because we should celebrate Ethan Blackadder.
Yes.
As you said to me, first father-son captain combination of a Super Rugby team, potentially of any team in World Rugby.
I would have thought so.
Todd and Ethan leading out the Crusaders.
Yeah, and
28 years apart.
It dawned on me when I was watching the tally as he was walking out first. I was like, I wonder if this is the first ever. And I don't know, obviously features-wise they aren't exactly the same, but the way he just strolled down there, it was almost like
So casual.
but his dad-esque.
Yeah.
It was cool watching that, to be fair.
What makes a great captain? Obviously, Ethan did that for the first time over the weekend, filling in for David Havili, may get more opportunities.
Yep.
But what made the best captains? How much work does the captain actually put in?
Well, I mean,
Who are your best captains?
who are my best captains? Probably the obvious one stands out like a beacon. Richie.
Why does he stand out so much? McCaw, we're talking.
I think all my captains were forwards, I want to say. And so many of them, they have the great attribute of leading the way. You feel safe in their environment. You feel safe in their company. When they lead you out, that's a guy I can follow. I feel braver. He's going to do stuff that he wouldn't ask of you if he's not going to do himself. He's going to lead by example, etc., etc. That sort of goes hand in hand with these forward leaders. One of the things that set Richie apart was he was that. Of course he was. He was the bravest of brave. But then he also had this ability to be getting his head kicked in at a ruck trying to get a steal for you. Whistle gone, popped up, right, tactically, what are we up to now? Where are we going? And just be across everything. And that was on the field. And then off the field, and when you get to the All Black level, everyone's got the required standards. No one's going to shirk things. Everyone's going to do what needs to be done and prepare right. But he had the ability, and I think it was probably, from what I gathered, it was learnt as far as the experiences that he had previously, like I guess the Cardiff World Cups and things like that. But he was massive on, okay, what happens if this doesn't work out? Where are we going to here? What's plan B here? And things like that, which not everyone gets across. Like some might give a bit of lip service to, but there was always the detail around, if this doesn't go well, where are we going to? And it was probably worded, I mean, you've got to use more positive language than the first doesn't go well, but if we need an alternative, what are we doing? One of the things that, and at the time, I didn't even think too much of it, but a level of his preparation and analysis, preparation more than anything. We would fly to South Africa for a Tri-Nations game in 2008. We were playing at Newlands, obviously Cape Town, and we had to win it to stay alive in the race for the Tri-Nations title. There's still about 2 games to go, but we were already behind the 8 ball, had to win it. We were flying out maybe on a Saturday morning and like 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever the flight was, and we got together in Manukau there in the airport hotel. The alarms were set for about 2 o'clock, and then there was a text come through or a piece of paper on the thing, meeting in the team room at 2:30 in the morning. So, okay, who's done something wrong? Like this sounds like an emergency meeting. Richie just got us in there, all poloed up, bags are at the door, and he's just going over the fact that we're flying to Cape Town, South Africa, big week. Make sure you're doing everything right. We are going there to do a job. And I think this is my first in the All Blacks. And I was like, I didn't think anything of it at the time, but now I sit back because it's the question you get asked. Is he as intense as everyone? No. The question is what made him great.
Yeah.
And if I'm not getting asked about why were you fat in the World Cup with your jersey or can I have some white bait, I'm getting asked what made Richie McCaw.
So you only ever get 2 questions?
Yeah, about 2 or 3 questions. Like, why were you so fat in the World Cup final and have you got any white bait this year? And then it's Richie McCaw and his captaincy. And that for me, there's lots of examples of him being a great leader, but that for me, that meeting, now sitting back in time, I often think about that and think that's pretty special. And at the time, you're like, could have had another half hour in bed here. But that was the level that he was across things and that he was already thinking about what we needed to do in 8 days' time and how we were going to get there. And he felt it important enough that we needed to get together in a little hotel. It wasn't a fancy hotel. Just we were crammed into a room not much bigger than this, just to highlight the fact that we're going to do a job. Get your head switched on now. We had about 20 hours on a plane to go through, but that was just where his head was at. And straight away, I'll be honest with you, it did trigger you straight away. It was my first year in there. And there's probably about half a dozen of us who was first year in the All Blacks. And our first trip to Africa as an All Black. And I don't know if that was a little bit in that, just that we'd be across it. But it was just like, okay, a real jolt to know that this is what I'm thinking and this is what we're walking into and this is where I need your head to be at.
Did he ever switch off? Did he ever have a laugh? Did he...
Yeah.
Oh, so he was normal.
Yeah.
It's just that you're making him sound so intense. And,
no.
But he did have the ability to...
Yeah.
So he's just a normal guy.
Normal guy, but with the ability to go like that. And that's where I think it jolts you as one of the other team guys that someone's like, yeah, and then bang, right.
Business time.
And that's but you want your leaders to be set apart, don't you? You can't be one of the boys because then you can't really respect it if it's just one of the lads going, oh, hey, we better get sorted for this game next week.
Yeah.
Richard went, bang, right, okay, I'm thinking of that now.
Okay, well, that was incredible, much like DC last week. So we hope you enjoyed that. I'm sure you're going to let us know in the comments. We're going to break things up here and just do something a little different. So,
Do I know about this?
You know I like to challenge you.
I feel like I
And you're always up for it. But this is just break things up. Let's just have a bit of fun.
Okay.
So over the weekend, Hong Kong Sevens,
Yep.
all the stars descended on Hong Kong.
I saw that.
The biggest names in the world. Andrew Murdens of the world.
Was Mertz there too?
Mertz was there.
Oh, yes.
Brian Habana, of course,
Yes.
who was asked to do a blind rankings of the best 7 wingers in the world. So when you do blind rankings, you don't know who's coming next. You just have to pick a position, 1 to 7, of where they sit. And when you get to the end, you go, okay, I should have moved that person around. Anyway, we're going to do the same with Beav today. We've been inspired by the great Brian Habana. But instead of doing current wingers, we're going to do former wingers. And Beaver has no idea who's coming.
I don't like this.
Why?
Because I've seen how it works. You get ended up with someone at 1 that you didn't think would be ranked above others.
Okay. So I'm going to give you 7 names.
Okay.
And
none of them are current?
None of them are current.
Okay.
Here's your 7 in no particular order. And you've got
I've got to give you a number.
You've got to give me a number. Okay. My first winger for you Corey Jane.
Oh, CJ.
Peak Corey Jane.
Peak CJ, the greatest fend in the game from a man who was 70 kgs, only needed 3 metres. Peak Corey Jane. 4.
4 for CJ, brutal. Okay, next, we're going Drew Mitchell. One of Aussie's finest,
Great
who
left
runs a
foot.
great podcast as well.
Well,
Kick-ons, kick-offs.
I'm more likely to see CJ soon, so I'll put Drew at 5.
You're putting Drew at 5. Is that a bit of an insult, or are you happy with that?
I couldn't put him above CJ.
You love Drew, though.
I do love Drew, but CJ would be killing me if I put too many ahead of him.
Okay. Peak Nehe Milner-Skudder 2015 World Cup. This isn't a career. This isn't a longevity thing. You're just looking at them on their absolute peak.
Absolute peak. So you're asking me, do I rank him above CJ Peak, really? Yep.
Yep,
Yep.
what?
3.
Nehe's 3 for you.
Oh, CJ's going to kill me.
Nehe Milner-Skudder. Next on the list, the golden one. Jeff Wilson.
Childhood hero.
Peak Jeff Wilson.
Peak Jeff Wilson's going to have to be 2. I couldn't have one of my childhood heroes.
Okay, so just to let you know, you've got 1, 6, and 7 open.
Oh, so this is, yeah. So if you've got 3 buttes left, I'm in big trouble.
Joe Rokocoko.
Oh. Joe knows I love him.
Oh, come on. Joe's an avid fan of this show, by the way.
Well, I've known Joe since I was 8.
So what are you doing with him?
I'm going to have to put him at 1. I'm going to have to put him at 1 and just bank that 6 is Richard Kahui. And who else has played? Please give me a Richard Kahui. I'll have no issue giving him 6 or 7.
Brian Habana.
Oh, yeah.
The man as fast as a cheetah or faster.
More tries than anyone in World Rugby? More World Cup tries?
Incredible.
Broke my heart many a time playing for the Bulls and Springboks. Apologies, Brian, but 6 is the only one left for you.
This is inspired.
This was inspired by him. I should have known he was coming. Geez, CJ, you're lucky sitting at 4 now.
And the 7th,
Don't tell me Jonah.
Jonah. Jonah Lomu.
Disgraceful. We're cutting this out. We're cutting this out of the show. This ain't being a part of it.
So let's go over
No.
Beaver's list. Blind rankings, former wingers. In order. Joe Rokocoko, number 1, who he's known since he was 8. His childhood hero, Jeff Goldie Wilson, who he works with most weekends. Peak, Nehe Milner-Skudder, in at number 3. Corey Jane, one of the greatest fens in the game, who he will be off to see in Wellington, is 4. Drew Mitchell, the great Australian, in 5. Brian Habana, one of the greatest wingers on the planet, at 6.
Who I
And
should
the
have realised.
greatest ever,
Yes.
the greatest ever,
Childhood hero.
Jonah Lomu sits at number 7.
Disrespectful from me.
Would you change anything if you had the chance?
Yes.
Who would you change?
Well, Jonah and Brian would probably be a whole lot higher up.
Where would they be?
Well, Jonah would be 1.
And Brian would be?
Quite possibly 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've done your dash. That was just our little break. I just wanted to challenge Beaver there. Thank you for the inspiration, Brian.
You've wiped me out now.
And I'm sorry that you sit so low in Beaver's pecking order. On the weekend, there's this amazing shot in the dressing room. Christian Cullen sitting next to Ruben Love in the Hurricanes dressing room after the match against the Waratahs. Probably someone that Ruben, as a very, very youngster,
been young, yeah.
he would have been very young when Cully was roaming the earth. I make him sound like a dinosaur. He probably would have more looked up to the Corey Janes and Israel
Yes,
Dags of the world,
correct.
but still, he knows who he is and what he's done.
Highlights
and
reels.
Highlights
YouTube.
reels. Still like a special moment for
Yeah.
him sitting there having a conversation with Cully
Yep.
to have worn the Canes 15s jerseys.
Yes.
Heroes growing up.
Heroes for me.
Who are your inspirations?
Well, you go through so many times, so many stages of your life as a kid growing up. But once I started to get an appreciation of the game, Mertz. Like Mertz, for me, I would have been about 11, 12 when he started to emerge. I talk about 95 World Cup. From the 95 World Cup, I was just Mertz. wanted to be him. Obviously, Stephen Larkham started to emerge. I went as far as trying to wear headgear one game when I was playing for my high school when I was about 14. I survived 15 minutes with it and had to biff it off. So,
did you play like Larkham that day?
well, I thought I was trying to be. So that was gone after 15 minutes. And the other thing I do remember as a kid, and when I was a lot younger, when I just started to practice goal kicking and all the rest of it, was when I was growing up, prior to Mertz, was Grant Fox, the great first five and father of Ryan. And he used to do this thing where he used to like wiggle his fingers. It was almost like the modern thing of spirit fingers, but he used to have them by his side when he was lining up his goal kicks. And I remember when I was young, that's what I'd do in the backyard, get my fingers wiggling. So all sorts of people like that. But I grew up in counties, and Jonah, talk about 95, Jonah was beyond superstardom. He would come to our schools as I think an ASB ambassador. He would play our club team, Waiuku, when he'd come out of Weymouth. I'd go to the Pookie Stadium and watch him play with Sua'ali'i for every game. I would have his autograph about 1 million times and would always just go up and get his signature and move on. And then, he would be it. But when growing up, like, Dad always coached the first 15 of Prem. So, like, even those guys were like my heroes. And, like, when you were young and sitting around with them and you'd be, like, sitting in the change room, this was cool, like things like that. My cousin played NPC rugby. So, I guess I had heroes all over show that I wanted to be like.
But your number one hero sits 7th on your wingers list of the past.
Yeah.
Jonah Awards.
Unfortunately.
That Ruben Love pass.
Yes.
Like, he's been really good over the last couple of weeks when he's been back from injury. But we just saw peak Hurricanes on the weekend.
Yes.
And Ruben Love just throwing passes that you do in the backyard growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I was always brave enough to throw him at training. I don't know if I'd be brave enough to throw in a game, but no, he adds another dimension to them, the Hurricanes, having Ruben Love out there. They've got a lot of quality players, but he's come back. Amua's came back. Lomax has come back. They are starting to look very, very impressive.
Which is what you said to us a few weeks ago. You said you hold your judgment on the Hurricanes until they start getting players back.
Absolutely.
They're now starting to filter back in.
They're starting to get players filtered back in.
That was their best performance of the season by far.
By a country mile. I talked about how Moana might have had the idea of bashing up the Crusaders and then letting their smart players get them in the right parts of the field. For me, very similar. Although it took a longer time to break the Waratahs stayed in the game for what you felt like was probably the whole first half. If you watch that first 20 minutes, physically, who was winning the battles? It was those Hurricanes forwards were getting off that line and banging them. And I've got nothing but praise for that Hurricanes performance. And I'd go as far as to say, outside of that Chiefs Crusaders game in Hamilton, there hasn't been a better performance from a team.
This year.
Like, straight away, that performance says Hurricanes, Chiefs, who's coming?
Yeah.
Like, that's how good it looked. I mean, they've now got to go do it again and again.
They will, against the Blues.
And then they've got the Blues this week. So if they go out and produce something similar, then all of a sudden you're going to start getting down to your local TAB and starting to think about them as being genuine title contenders, because that forward pack, with that loose forward depth that they have, the luxury of bringing a Brad Shields off the bench.
Yeah, Braden Yosse.
Braden Yosse was back to what he was doing last year. Obviously, you got Roy Guard. A little shout out to Riley Hohepa too. I thought he just did his job.
Yeah.
And that's all when you look at everything else that the Hurricanes have got, what did Brett Cameron do well last year? He just did his job. That's all Riley did. Got out there, passed when he needed to pass, kicked in the corners.
He looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
He looked great.
And you can just build on that now if you're Riley. And another, I guess, special mention to Bailyn Sullivan.
Well, here's our Jersey watch for this week. Usually when we do Jersey watch, we look at 2 All Blacks or maybe potential All Blacks. But this week we thought, why not look at 13s? You had an international 13 in Joseph Sua'ali'i up against someone who hasn't been in the picture. He's been in the Māori All Blacks before. I don't believe he's been in the New Zealand A, so he hasn't really been talked about in that top echelon at 13. That is our Jersey watch this weekend. Who won that battle?
Well, Bailyn did, didn't he? Bailyn was about the best on the field. He was phenomenal. You talk about his career to date. His career to date's been a bit impacted by injuries, and when it hasn't been impacted by injuries, he's just been in a logjam at the Canes. Left for Chiefs because, again, behind multiple midfielders who were preferred ahead of him, and then he's gone down the Hurricanes and he's been behind the likes of Geordie and Proctor's emergence. So He spent time on the wing. Very good footballer. Like, he's a well-rounded footballer. Always been good skills, good pace, smart. You saw him score his try. Intelligence. But the thing for me, and he's been doing it, noticed it in Napier against the Drua and in following weeks, his defence.
Yeah.
His defence against the Waratahs, like knowing how they defend, and they do look to bring line speed, the Hurricanes, and they look to bring it from the outside. Him getting up in those outside channels and leading that defence and going and not just tackling people, but chopping people.
Has that
in
always
half.
been part of his game?
I don't think it's been to a level that it has been this year. He's never, for me, looking at Bailyn in the past, I'd have never said hitman.
Yeah.
But now, what he's producing, you wouldn't want to run square into that. He cut a few in half. Like, they were proper shots. And like, he's got a good frame on him, but it's just something's triggered in him this year defensively. He's a lot more physical.
On the other side, as for Joseph Sua'ali'i, first game back in 6 weeks.
Yes.
So he's been out for quite a long time with an injury. Only second ever Super Rugby game. Only played about 20 minutes at 13 before shifting back to fullback. What did you make of him and what the Waratahs were doing?
If you looked at the Hurricanes, and I know the Waratahs got affected hugely by injuries, but even when they hadn't, that first 20 minutes, the Hurricanes had obviously decided to defensively test his decision-making. And, you know, defending is not just being a good tackler. Like, you know, I used to think I was a good defender, but I never tackled. I just used to try and direct people to go do it. But the ability to go and make the right reads, and it was noticeable that the Hurricanes were doing a lot of plays where they would have guys running around the back on wrap plays around that 12 and 13 channel curse. And that, for me, was just trying to, I guess, test the decision-making of the midfield, which included Joseph. The Waratahs were very interesting defensively, which I'm not sure helps. They had that first try that the Hurricanes got, I think it was Kinney over on the left. They had a winger defending it in the first 5 position, then Joseph, and then another winger outside him. Well, I know teams try and hide 10s defensively these days, but when you put up that sort of defensive line, how often do they defend together that 3? And when you got guys like the Hurricanes and the shapes that they were throwing at you, you got to know what you're doing. And I just thought they were making themselves look pretty vulnerable there.
Okay, move across the ditch. Brumbies, Highlanders. The Highlanders, my fairy tale story.
All our fairy tale.
Now not looking too pretty.
Yes.
1-2, lost 4. Very small margins. They've lost by 1, 2, 6 and 7. And it was another close one against the Brumbies on the weekend. Is the fairy tale, when's it going to be back on track? That's what I need to know.
Well, it has to be this week against the Force, but there's still enough there that I reckon Jamie's not panicking. I mean, Tangito still going brilliantly. Hasty is still going great. They're still getting great work out of those hard-working pack. I reckon there's still enough there, Cursed, that they got to go to Perth. I think they'll be staying over there, so they'll have a week in Perth, get nice and tight, get nice and prepared, organised, go and do the job, and then it's season back on well and truly.
Okay, it is season on for basically everyone right now, whether you sit 1 or 11, because it is so tight, this competition, after 7 rounds, isn't it? The Reds are number 1.
Remarkably.
How long do they stay 1?
Well,
we know this weekend.
How
long do they stay number 1?
The Tron welcomes the Reds to a top-of-the-table clash. For me,
so this determines how long they stay 1.
It does stay 1. But you know what? The interesting thing for me this week will be the crowd size. So we've got Super Rugby back. The interest is high. Ratings on TV, we understand to be extremely high. This is an Australian team who's top of the table coming to New Zealand.
It should be nearly a sellout, just like all the Kiwi derbies.
Is it going to get back to those days where the big Australian teams coming across draw the big crowds? That's what I'll be fascinated by, because there's no reason for it not to be.
Okay, well, let's get into our predictions then.
Yeah.
Our predictions for round 8 of Super Rugby and round 6 of Super Rugby Opiki. Just an update on the leaderboard. Beav pegged one back. He went Brumbies and I went Highlanders, my fairy tale story, on the weekend. So I lead by 3. What are we putting on this, by the way?
What are you wanting?
Some scallops. Yeah, but you never deliver. You've brought me fish once in 3 years.
It's rubbish. Whitebait?
And whitebait, to be fair.
Well, you work on what you want. And I'll,
what do you want?
Probably your pineapple lump slice.
You can have pineapple lump slice and I'll have scallops. There you go. That is our wager for who wins our predictions this year. We'll start off with Super Rugby Opiki, as we do. Last round robin game of the season. Finals already been found Matatu Blues. So this game,
that's right,
these
yeah.
2 games, they do matter because potentially if the Blues don't win their game, they don't get a home final if
Okay.
Matatu do. Matatu Chiefs.
Chiefs.
I'm going to go Matatu.
Okay.
It's the only time this year that I've gone
You once
against the
said you were a
Chiefs.
loyal supporter.
Blues Hurricanes.
Blues.
Blues don't lose that game. Round 8 of Super Rugby.
What a round. Have you seen these fixtures?
Yeah, cracker.
Brilliant.
In the past, they wouldn't have been.
No.
Now they're all great games. So take us through it from the top, Beav. Chiefs, Reds, top of the table clash
In the Tron,
on Friday night.
Sean Stevenson plays his 100th game for the Chiefs. Who would have thought? Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Okay.
Sean Stevenson.
Yes.
Monumental moment for him.
Huge. Got it.
Moana Pasifika up against the Waratahs at home this time.
Huge.
Go Moana.
This is the biggest test for Moana, I reckon.
I'm on Moana.
If they can do this, Kirst,
They can do it.
they can do it. I'm on them too.
Mentally, turning around and doing it again. That's their challenge.
Yep.
Okay, this is Saturday. They've got 4 games in a row.
Wow.
What are you doing Saturday? You're in front of the TV by the looks of things.
Jeez.
The Drua against the Crusaders in Suva. Suva, baby.
Drew coming for bye. Crusaders
Coming
coming
off a loss.
I'm going to say Crusaders, but with not a whole lot of confidence.
That's tough.
Go it. Say Drew.
That's a tough one. I'll say the Drua.
Yeah.
I'll give you a chance to come back. But equally, who's favourite for that game? Who would be the favourite?
I'd say the Crusaders only from historical reasons.
It's the Drua at home.
It's the Drew at home.
Haven't looked at the weather
Historically,
conditions
tough
yet,
to beat.
but afternoon match. Not a Friday night fixture like we've seen. So it's an
Yes.
afternoon one in
That-
Suva.
That will you sell out before it's probably even gone on the market.
Blues Hurricanes. This
Last
is
chance.
last chance. This has to be the last chance. It's round 8. We're the halfway mark. The Blues have 1 win this season.
Hurricanes.
Hurricanes for me too. Force Highlanders. They're all good games.
Jesus,
There's 5 games.
cracker. The
And look at
Landers.
us thinking about it.
I mean, the Force. We talk about how good the Reds are. The Force took them to the
I know.
brink.
I know. And they're playing good rugby.
Great rugby.
I really like Jamie Joseph. I really like some of the boys on this team.
I like them too.
I am on the Highlanders. Beav's just all about winning.
I'm on the.
He's just trying to peg a few back.
I love the Landers. Yeah, I'll go with Landers too. Actually,
Go the Force if you want to go the Force.
no, Landers too. They got to get it done. Lots of lessons been learned
Yeah.
lately, and they will finally win a tight one. But it'll be a tight one.
Best of luck to you. Before we finish today,
Yes.
we got asked a question from Elizabeth. Thank you for your question, Elizabeth, on YouTube. What's the medal hanging on the microphone, Beav?
Okay, so this is a Rugby World Cup 211 medal. This is not a real one. I don't trust the security around here, so it's not a real one. But in fact, for a number 1 selling movie, The Kick, they made up a whole lot of moulds for the actors, and they made up a few extras, and they gave me one. And when Kirst wanted the room decorated, and she said, bring down your finest merch and memorabilia, the fake 2011
Where's the real one?
World Cup medal was what I first thought of.
Where's the real one, Beav?
It's in a drawer,
Just in a sock drawer or
in
something.
the old sock drawer.
Just sitting there.
Yeah, just sitting there. But no, that's what that medal is, Elizabeth, and great spotting. But yeah, no, that's what it is.
Okay, follow-up questions. What was it like having a movie made about yourself?
Quite ridiculous. Quite ridiculous, because didn't think it was ever going to happen. So I said yes, thinking it won't happen. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, can we have a sit down and chat about it? And I was like, oh, this is going to happen. They go, oh, yeah, possibly. And then all of a sudden, this is all when I was in Bath. And then they said, yeah, no, it's happening. And then so went on site a few times and they're doing it. And yeah, it was quite outrageous.
What's it like going on site?
But they did a lot of it out in Waiheke. So they hired out a few houses. They had these big vans and trucks and that all the actors were in and out of. And yeah, it was full noise. It was just so bizarre.
Have you ever watched it?
Once, and I may have been under the influence.
What's it like?
Well, I was under the influence.
Yeah, but honestly, cool, I've actually never watched it. But I'm
I'm so sorry.
It's the number one ranking.
What is it? What's it like?
It's about a rugby guy.
No shit. Is it any good?
Look.
How would it rate on Rotten Tomatoes?
Oh, I think it's got a rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, high 90s. But
Just like your book.
And the book too. No, book sold out. But no, it is what it is from my point of view. But
Did they tell the story?
yeah,
Is there like a few?
there's sprinklings.
There's sugarcoating.
Yeah, there's a bit of GST on it. But in general, it's pretty accurate. And the one thing, the positive thing, like obviously it's skin sort of crawling for me because it's me. But the one thing that is good about it is, doesn't matter where I go, mums come up and tell me that whenever my kid misses out on a team, we chuck the kick on. He's watched it about 8 times and it just makes him feel better. And I was like,
You've done your job.
I've done my job.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. They know me as the guy that always missed out on teams. Yeah.
That's what the movie's about.
It's a recurring
Look,
theme.
I'm gonna have to watch it now. I'll do a review for you next week if you haven't seen it. Has anyone else watched it? Comments,
Please.
reviews in the comment section. Would be weird though,
Yeah, very weird.
seeing yourself on the big screen.
They did ask me if I wanted to do it myself.
Why didn't you?
Yeah, look. Sort of want to distance myself a little bit.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. That is the aftermatch with Kirsten Beav, as we always say. You come for the rugby, stay for the aftermatch, the Hollywood reviews and more.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.